But thank you for having me. I'm just reporting on the audit as of September 30, 2025. The audit is primarily wrapped up in the month of right near the end of November. And then after holidays and vacations, and we get everything wrapped up, it was issued February 9th. So everything looks good. If you do have the report in front of you, it's right on page 1 is our opinion on the financial statements. After doing our test work, we form an opinion, and it says, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the MACC. So that's a good, clean opinion, and certainly what you want to have when you have an audit done. If you can go through and compare current to prior year reports, you'll also notice that on page 2 there's a whole additional paragraph about supplementary information. That was added this year because we added some indirect cost calculations at the back of the report, so that's what that paragraph is covering, and I'll go over those a little bit. The next couple pages are management discussion and analysis. Gives you a nice little informational about what was done at the MACC this year. There's just a few bullet points on the top of page 3 for several of the grants that were received are mentioned there. The MACC is fully staffed, and just a lot of what has happened during the year. So I don't spend too much time on that, but jump to the numbers. So pages 7 and 9 are all the activity of the MACC in its entirety on the accrual basis. So that includes all the capital of the MACC holding company as well. So that's all incorporated into there, and it includes the. Well, there's a couple slides on this, but bottom line on page 7, or the net position for the year, amounted to $2.2 million, which was down only $5,000 from the previous year. And we did do an adjustment to prior year's numbers just to get the community enhancement money out of fund balance, and we put it into a deferred liability account. So that's money that has been received from various communities for enhancement programs that has not yet been spent. So we reclassified that out of your fund balance totals and into a liability account until such time that it's spent. Then it comes out of the liability. So this is where your net position is, and you can see it's been steadily increasing over many years. The invested in capital, that's the MACC holding company essentially. You can see that too it's going down very, very slightly with depreciation. This little bump right here, that includes the community enhancement money, but when I take that out, it's actually almost identical to this year because you went down $5,000. So without that there, it's about even with the previous year. And this is the revenues by type in the governmental activities, and again, this is all comprehensive with everything. You can see the transportation dues exactly the same as last year. Watershed dues exactly the same as last year. Grants fluctuate a little bit, and again, that includes all the types of grants that the MACC receives. And then this is the expenditures and revenues in governmental funds. So let's jump to pages 10 through 13. This is where the fund statements are. They're a little different than the government-wide statements. It includes separately the activity of the transportation and watershed funds. And the bottom line for those, the transportation ended at $1.6 million. Watershed is basically an in and out. As you know, you contract to get with someone else to do the watershed now, but there's just there's a slight increase this year. It increased $3,000 up to $13,000 total in fund balance. So nearly all of the watershed dues are just transferred over to this other agency that takes care of that for you. But then transportation, you can see the revenues are just a little bit less than expenses by $17,000. No big deal there. And then this is the revenues by source for each of them. The transportation grants is actually up quite a bit this year. Community enhancement was down some, and then the dues, as you can see, the yellow line is exactly the same as it has been for a few years. And then fund balances here, and this this was more important to keep track of when the watershed was in the negative, but you can see the watershed, like I mentioned, is at 13,000, so it's way at the bottom line here. Transportation dues, or transportation fund balance, again, if we take the enhancement money out, it's almost even with last year, down just slightly. So all in all, good year. Financial position, you're in good shape. There wasn't any really footnotes. You were within your budgeted amounts, no footnotes. And then way at the back of the report, we did add, like I mentioned, the two separate schedules. One is the fringe benefit rate that's applied to your grant money, and then also the indirect cost rate that's applied to the grants. So those calculations are in here. They can be seen now. Before they were just kind of in our audit work, and now we're showing it to everybody. So, any questions I can answer? Do you see anything else in the report that? Yes, sir. You? No?
I really appreciate everything that you and your team does. They come on Thanksgiving week and they spend a lot of time in that little room going through everything. So keep Chris and I on our toes for 3 days, making sure we supply them with all the information they need to do a thorough audit. So from my perspective, my big takeaway is you see that the dues are staying the same. We haven't had to increase dues, and really trying to make sure that fund balance is right around $2 million to make sure that we have that cushion that we need as a government organization so we can deal with anything that comes our way. But certainly I want to make sure that government funding that comes to us, it is use it or lose it, but I have an amazing staff, and I want to make sure that they get paid what they should be getting paid for supplying the services to you guys. I think that the value reports that we do shows that we make sure that we get that money, we use it appropriately, and that we check all the boxes so MDOT and the feds support us at that about $2 million a year in construction funds, which we're doing pretty good.